Whether you're going for a trip into the big city or a sailing adventure, maybe you'd like to explore the moon and outer space. First, you have to save money. The best way to save money is with Priceland.ca. Priceland.ca is delivering great deals every day in hundreds of participating stores. Just show your card and save with savings from 15% to free. Priceland.ca. Sweet deal, sweet price.
You know, in this day and age, this country has really come a long way, putting any type of bigotry behind us, regardless of who it's towards, whether it's, you know, the LGBT community, whether it's xenophobia, you know, fear of people from other countries. We've come a long way, and with that progress comes a price, where we're a lot more vigilant in and we're a lot less tolerant of different views. And it's not necessarily easy for everybody to adapt or evolve. I mean, we're all prejudiced in one way or the other. If I see a black kid in a hoodie and it's late at night, I'm walking to the other side of the street. And if on that side of the street there's a guy that has tattoos all over his face, white guy, bald head, tattoos everywhere, I'm walking back to the other side of the street. And the list goes on of stereotypes that we all live up to and are fearful of. You know, I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I live in a glass house and it's not appropriate for me to throw stones. And so when I run into bigotry in organizations I control, I try to find solutions. I'll work with people, I'll send them to training, I'll send them to sensitivity training. I'll try to give them a chance to improve themselves, because I think helping people improve their lives, helping people engage with people they may fear may not understand, and helping people realize that while we all have our prejudices and bigotries, we have to learn that it's an issue that we have to control, that it's part of my responsibility as an entrepreneur to try to solve it, not just to kick the problem down the road, because it does society, it does my company no good, it does my customers no good, it does society no good if my response to somebody and their racism or bigotry is to say, it's not right for you to be here, go take your attitude somewhere else.
When I first heard about Mark Cuban's comments, what was conveyed to me was that if I see a black person wearing a hoodie, I'm going to the other side of the street. And that rubbed me the wrong way. And then I went and I saw the video and I watched it in its entirety, the entire 2 minutes and 42 seconds of the clip where he was talking about that. And I want to emphasize that I have absolutely, positively no problem whatsoever with what Mark Cuban had to say. Zero. There was nothing remotely offensive about what this man had to say. Now, I understand that me being a black man, an African American, that people are going to be rubbed the wrong way by those statements. They will need to get over it. Because if we're listening to what he said, it wasn't about ethnicity. He talked about black folks in a hoodie walking across the street. He talked about a white dude in the same sentence with tats all over his head, and he's bald, and he'd walk back to the other side of the street. So that's both ends of the spectrum. And now it has to bring us home to where he's really going here. And where he's going, Skip Bayless, is something that I've completely and repeatedly have tried to disseminate to people, to a younger generation of folks, regardless of ethnicity, and particularly folks within the black community who are young. And that is simply this: presentation matters. How you look matters. How you carry yourself matters. And for anybody that wants to act like it doesn't, I'm going to tell you they're full of it and they know it. Because I don't care how hood radish you look. when you want some money and you think that you have an opportunity to get it and you go for a job interview, you're going to dress the part and you're going to look the part to facilitate you possibly taking advantage of that opportunity. So let's not act like we don't know that presentation matters. And let's also keep in mind that we don't get to bring up the Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Ray Allen, and the crew of the Miami Heat, who we should all still applaud to this day for the position that they took when they put on their hoodies in regards to the Trayvon Martin fatality when he got shot and killed. What they were alluding to and what they were talking about is because you have a hoodie on and you are a young black man, it's not a license for somebody to assume you're a criminal and to shoot you. That is entirely different than it not being a license for somebody to see you and they may be fearful, and as a result of that, they decide to walk in a different direction or the other side of the street. That's somebody's inalienable right. They're not bothering you, but they're fearful of whether or not you're going to bother them based on your presentation. We want to act like it doesn't matter, but it does matter. I have been on this show on many, many occasions. It's one thing to have a couple of tats. It's another thing entirely to have tats all over your body like you straight out of prison. It's a problem. And people want to act like it's not. But it is. It doesn't matter whether you're black, Hispanic, white, or whatever the case may be. There are segments of our society that are uncomfortable with that. And because they're uncomfortable with that, it makes them raise their eyebrows, creates a little trepidation and apprehension, makes them look at you in a certain way that because they're not comfortable. And in the case of Mark Cuban, he is a billionaire. He has owned the Dallas Mavericks since the year 2000. He purchased them for about $285 million. They're probably worth, more than double that right now with the exceptional job that he has done. And he is an employer. He hires people. He doesn't need anybody's money. He has his own. And what he did, to me, should damn near be applauded. Because what he's saying is something that a younger generation of individuals who aspire to be entrepreneurs, who aspire to be gainfully employed and elevate their quality of life. He's saying, you know what? There are potential roadblocks and impediments that are self-created because the manner in which you present yourself and how you look matters. Now, that may not be something that everyone's comfortable with, but it happens to be true. No matter what anybody wants to say. And so I just want to be on the record right here, right now. When I first heard about it, I was uncomfortable. When I watched the video in its entirety, the Mark Cuban that I know has never, ever come across to me as a racist. And I found absolutely positively nothing racially insensitive about what that man said. Nothing. I stand by everything that I said yesterday, tenfold. 100-fold. And I don't care who in the black community disagrees with me. I'm not interested in their disagreement on this particular issue because they're not looking at the bigger picture here. Mark Cuban, in the same breath that he talked about walking across the street from a black dude in a hoodie, followed that up by talking about the white dude who's bald-headed with tats all over his face and his body and what have you. Everybody wants to ignore that in our community. I want to say everybody because I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just talking about the people that communicated with me, which were in the hundreds yesterday. I'm totally exhausted. I can't believe I'm up for this show with as many conversations I've had to have about this yesterday get on my damn nerves. But the thing about it is that all of those folks ignored the part that he said about the white guy because we want to pounce on him making this statement and alluding to black folks or talking about somebody in a hoodie that happens to be black and how he'd walk across the street. He talked about the prejudices that exist in all spectrums by all of us. Are we going to sit here and literally act like we don't have any prejudices? Like we don't feel certain way about certain people or certain people's appearances and how it makes us raise our antennas? Am I going to sit here and tell you that if at night and I saw, you know, a couple of white dudes with tats all over their body and their head or whatever, and I'm going to feel comfortable with that, I'm not going to raise an eyebrow, would I be telling the truth? Particularly if I was in some place like Mississippi or Idaho, not to knock those folks, but you hear where I'm coming from in terms of, you know, sometimes how black folks feel uncomfortable in certain areas geographically in our nation. I mean, this is just a reality, okay? And so as a result of it, you don't do harm to anybody. You don't inflict harm or pain towards anybody else, but does it raise your antennas and makes you a bit suspicious? Sure it does. So what Mark Cuban was saying was 100% correct. It's just that simple. But the bigger issue that needs to be discussed, it's the big elephant in the room, and nobody wants to touch on it because white folks are scared they're going to be labeled racist. Black folks are scared they're going to be labeled sellouts. See, I tend to look at things a bit differently. You know, I look at our unemployment rate consistently being double that of folks in white America. I do understand that to some degree there's a level of racism that we all have to overcome, and I get all of that. But that doesn't mean every single issue is race related. Sometimes it is about how you represent yourself. It is about how you present yourself. When I alluded to walking around with your pants hanging below your behind, that's trifling. That's just trifling. And it's counterproductive. When I talked about how you sitting there and the first words out of your mouth is, you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean? No, the hell we don't. You ain't saying anything yet. That's a reality. When I talk about not having a command of the English language, and still you want a job, and you want to have a career, but you don't want to get your education. You don't want to go out there and pound that pavement. Everything's about the sprint. It's not about the marathon. It's not about you putting forth the necessary effort and due diligence over the long haul to get the things that you need. That's a reality in our community. And when you look at the guys, whether it's P. Diddy, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's LeBron or D-Wade or whatever, here's the reality of the situation. Everybody can't be them. They're special. And sometimes some of the special people, I'm not talking about them specifically, but some of the special people within our community don't get it. They are special. Everybody can't be them. So when I'm here on national television talking to them and talking to our community, I'm trying to educate you about the minefields that await, the stereotypes and the perceptions that you can't feed into if you want to move forward in life. We talk about this thing, Kerry and Skip, about the American dream. Let me tell you something right now. Do you understand that I look at a professional athlete, I look at some of these rap artists or what have you, making their tens or hundreds of millions of dollars? I don't consider them the American dream. I consider them a fantasy turned reality. You couldn't in your wildest dreams, no matter where you're from or where you at, imagine that you could have achieved what they have achieved. It's very few that are fortunate enough to do that. When we talk about the American dream, you know who I think about? Myself. Hollis, Queens, New York City, left back in the 4th grade, grew up poor. The level of education that I had was a public school system. I ultimately graduate from high school. I go to a historically black institution like Winston-Salem State University. I graduate with honors. There is no journalism program. I still graduate with honors. I still beat out thousands of people to get an internship that ultimately transitioned from a career at the New York Daily News to the Philadelphia Inquirer to CNN and then Fox Sports and then ultimately ESPN. And I'm on national TV every day. Get paid pretty well, I might add. And I'm thinking about the fact that where did I come from? This is the road you've got to climb. You know, everybody can't be Jay-Z. That's 1 in a billion. Everybody can't be Shaq and Kobe. That's 1 in a billion. But you can be Stephen A. Smith. Educate yourself. Work hard. Do what you have to do. Pound that pavement. Be about the business of going for yours and understanding what you have to do to work through the political minefields that waits for you in every step of our lives.
So true.
That's what I'm talking about. And people don't get that.